A white chef's apron sat on the stainless steel prep counter of a fully prepared kitchen, folded, precisely. The specific fold of a man who was trained that equipment is treated with respect, regardless of the circumstances of its removal. The kitchen around it was ready in every way a kitchen could be ready. Mise en place, arranged with the care of someone who had been planning this for 6 months. Every ingredient in its correct position. Every station stocked and organized with the invisible logic of a chef who understood that preparation was not a task. It was a form of respect, paid in advance to the people who would eventually sit down and eat what he made. The apron was the only thing that did not belong to the preparation. It had been placed there by the man who just left. He had been in that kitchen since 2 in the afternoon. 6 months of planning. 400 guests. The largest night of his career. And he was gone before the first course left the pass. 6 months earlier, Julius Webb had been at his kitchen table at home at 11:43 p.m., designing the menu by hand. Not typing it, writing it. He designed every menu by hand because he believed the physical act of committing a dish to paper forced you to mean it in a way that typing did not. His handwriting was precise and slightly small, the handwriting of a man who had spent 20 years writing in the margins of recipes and had developed the specific economy of someone who understood that space was not infinite and neither was time. 7 courses. Each one connected to the feeling of being cared for, because Constance Avery had told him when she called that the gala was about children who needed care, and he had decided immediately that the food should carry that in every plate. Not as a concept explained on a menu card, as something felt before it was understood. He wrote the final dish, set his pen down, read the full menu once from the beginning. Then he looked at the doorway to Zoe's room. Dark, quiet. His 8-year-old daughter asleep inside with her dark green book, probably still open on the bed because she always fell asleep reading, and he always went in to close it after she was under, and never once told her to stop reading before bed, because Angela had always said that a child who reads herself to sleep is a child who will never be without somewhere to go. This one's for you too, Angela. Not dramatically. Simply. The way you speak to someone who is not there but has never fully left. He turned off the kitchen light and went to close Zoe's book. The day of the gala arrived the way important days always arrived for Julius. Not with ceremony, but with work. He was at the venue commissary by 6 in the morning, running final quality checks on deliveries. By 2 in the afternoon, he and his team were in the event kitchen, and the prep had begun. Zoe sat in the corner near the dry goods shelving with her dark green book, Flavors of the World, hardcover, gold-embossed title, a gift from Julius when she was 6, and asked him what food was like in other countries, and he decided the question deserved a proper answer. She knew how to be in a working kitchen. She knew to keep her feet out of the traffic lines and her voice below the ambient noise level, and her eyes available for her father if he needed to locate her quickly. She had been learning this since she was small enough to sit in a produce crate. The kitchen ran the way Julius's kitchens always ran. Quietly, precisely, the specific organized energy of a team that had internalized their chef's standards and moved within them without being constantly redirected. Andre Washington, 29 years old and the best thing that had happened to Webb's table in 4 years, managed the sauce stations with the focused confidence of a young chef who knew he was good and had been made better by working for someone better than him. At 4:30, Zoe looked up from her book at the kitchen in full preparation motion, her father moving between stations with the unhurried authority of a man executing something he had rehearsed in his mind 600 times, and said, "Dad, it smells like something really good is about to happen." Julius looked at her from across the kitchen. The specific smile that was only for her. "That's exactly what's happening." She went back to her book. Diana Frost entered the kitchen at 5:47 p.m. Julius had not yet changed into his chef's whites. He had arrived directly from the loading dock after supervising the final equipment placement, and his whites were hanging in the prep room, ready for service. He was in dark trousers and a clean button-down shirt, moving between the fish station and the cold larder, when the kitchen door opened, and a white woman in her mid-40s entered with a clipboard and a headset, and the specific controlled energy of someone who managed large events for a living, and had learned to move through event spaces as though they were extensions of her authority. She saw Julius, stopped, read him in 4 seconds, made a decision. "Excuse me." Her voice was professional and clipped. "Can I ask what your role is tonight?" Julius looked at her. "Executive Chef, Julius Webb, Webb's Table." Her pen moved to the clipboard. "I'm going to need you to step out for a moment." The kitchen did not stop. Kitchens do not stop for conversations, but something in the ambient noise adjusted. The specific quality of a working space becoming aware of something happening in it that was not part of the work. "Step out," Julius said. "The Gala director has specific requirements for visible staff tonight. I need to do a quick credential check before service. My contract is with Constance Avery. You can call her. Mrs. Avery is managing guest arrival. I need you to step out while I verify." Julius looked at her steadily. His diagnostic mode, the complete stillness of a man reading everything without performing the reading. He looked at the clipboard, at the headset, at the 4 seconds it had taken her to decide she needed to verify him, while every other member of his team continued working unquestioned around him. He understood what was happening. At the corner, near the dry goods shelving, Zoe had closed her book. She was watching with her mother's eyes, dark, direct, collecting information. Julius went still for 2 seconds. Then he reached behind him and untied his apron. The motion was unhurried and precise, the specific deliberateness of a man performing an action with full understanding of its meaning. He folded it, once lengthwise, once across. The particular fold of someone trained that equipment is treated with respect, regardless of the circumstances of its removal. He placed it on the counter, picked up his jacket from the hook beside the prep room door, looked at Zoe. "Come on, Zoe." She closed her book, stood, crossed the kitchen to him and took his hand without being asked to. The specific movement of a child who understood that her father needed her hand right now, even though he would not say so. They walked out. The kitchen door closed behind them. Andre stood at the sauce station looking at the door. Then, at the folded apron on the counter. Then, at Diana Frost, who was making a note on her clipboard with the fine point pen. "She just removed the chef," Andre said. "To nobody. To everybody. To the kitchen that was going to have to work the rest of this night without the person who built it." Diana Frost touched her earpiece and left. "Right here. If you already know what is about to happen to that kitchen, if something in this moment is sitting with you, hit the like button. Subscribe if you have not already. We tell stories like this every single week, and we do not want you to miss a single one. And drop your country in the comments right now. Tell us where in the world you are watching from. We read every one. Now, Julius is in the corridor with his daughter, and his phone is in his hand. In the service corridor, Julius made 2 calls. The first to Constance Avery's direct number. 4 rings. Voicemail. She was in guest arrival with 400 people coming through a door, and her phone in her clutch, and no awareness of what had just happened in her kitchen, 50 yards away. The second to his lawyer. Not to file anything tonight, simply to document. He reported the time, the name, the words used, the circumstances. He had spent 12 years building something, and he understood that documentation was not paranoia. It was the specific form of protection available to a man who knew that what just happened had a name, and that names required records. Zoe stood beside him during both calls. When he finished, she looked up at him with the direct honesty of a child who has been patient long enough and needs to ask the question her observation has produced. "Dad, did she make you leave because of how you look?" Julius looked at his daughter, at Angela's eyes waiting for an honest answer, not a managed one, not a comfortable one, an honest one. "I think so," he said, "but here is what I need you to understand. What she did says everything about her and nothing about us. You understand me?" Zoe considered this with the gravity it deserved. Nodded once. Then, "But your food is still in there." Julius looked at the service corridor door. "My food is still in there. So what happens to it?" He did not have an answer yet. He looked at the door for a moment longer. Then he took his daughter's hand, and they walked to the parking structure. Inside the kitchen, Andre Washington was discovering the specific difference between knowing a menu and being the chef who designed it. He knew every dish. He had been in every prep session for 6 months. He could plate the third course from memory and had done so 14 times in practice runs. What he could not replicate was the sequencing intelligence that lived in Julius's head, the specific logic of when to make which decision, the timing relationships between courses that Julius managed by instinct, the 100 micro-adjustments that Julius made during service that Andre had watched and absorbed, but not yet fully internalized because some knowledge transfers through proximity and time, and Andre had proximity, but not yet enough time. The sauce on the third course was reducing 3 minutes ahead of schedule. A junior chef had begun preparing the wrong garnish for the 5th course, because a station instruction had been misread in the controlled chaos of service prep. The protein timing for the 4th course was developing a 4-minute gap that would not be a 4-minute gap when it reached 400 plates. It would be a cascade of decisions that Julius would have caught in 30 seconds, and that Andre was catching in 6 minutes. Andre called Julius at 6:14 p.m. "Chef." His voice was controlled. Barely. The specific controlled urgency of a talented young chef encountering the outer boundary of what he could manage alone. "I need you back in here." Julius sat in his car in the parking structure, with Zoe in the passenger seat, and Andre's voice still in his ear after the call ended. He looked at the steering wheel. The kitchen was failing. Not catastrophically. Andre was too good for catastrophic. But failing in the specific way that kitchens fail when the person who designed them is not there to run them. The food he had spent 6 months building was 50 yards away, coming apart at the seams of his absence. If he went back, he walked into a room that had decided he did not belong. He would see Diana Frost's face. He would work the rest of the night in a kitchen, where everyone had watched him be escorted out by a woman with a clipboard who had looked at him for 4 seconds and made a decision. If he did not go back, 400 people at a children's hospital fundraiser would eat a dinner that was not what it was supposed to be. Constance Avery's 11 years of trust with her community would absorb a failure she did not cause. 6 months of Julius Webb's work would sit unfinished 50 yards away because someone had decided he did not look like what she imagined when she approved the contract. He looked at Zoe. She was looking at him with her mother's eyes. Not asking anything, not pushing, simply present. The way Angela had always been, simply present, when he needed to think, without being told he was thinking. "Dad," Zoe said quietly, "your food is still in there." She had said this in the corridor. She was saying it again. 8 years old, and she understood that some things needed to be said twice, because the first time they were said, the person hearing them was not yet ready to act on them. Julius looked at his daughter for a long moment. Then he opened the car door. "Stay here. Lock the—" "I'm coming with you," Zoe said. "Zoe, I'm coming with you, Dad." Not a negotiation. A statement. Angela's complete certainty in his daughter's face, looking at him across the center console. He looked at her. "Stay out of the way." "I know how to stay out of the way," she said. "You taught me." He looked at her for one more second. "Yeah," he said. "I did." Before we see what happens when Julius walks back through that door, subscribe right now if you have not already. Because what this man does in the next 10 minutes is the reason we tell stories like this one. Hit the bell and drop your country in the comments. Tell us where you are watching from. We are reading every single one. Now, Julius and Zoe walk back through the service entrance. He did not go through the main gala entrance. He went through the loading dock, the same door he came through at 2 p.m. carrying equipment. His door. The door that had nothing to do with Diana Frost's headset, or her clipboard, or the 4 seconds she had taken to decide something that had taken her 4 seconds to decide. In the kitchen, Andre saw him first. Something released in Andre's posture. Not dramatically. Simply the specific physical adjustment of a young chef who had been holding something above his capacity and had just been relieved of it by the right person. He did not speak. He did not need to. He simply moved slightly to the left at the sauce station. The unconscious spatial acknowledgement of a kitchen making room for its chef. Julius went to the prep room, put on his whites, came back to the counter where the folded apron sat. He looked at it for 2 seconds. Then he took a fresh apron from the shelf, tied it, turned to the kitchen. "Where are we?" Andre told him. Quickly, precisely, the damage assessment of a young chef reporting to the person qualified to receive it. Julius listened without interrupting, nodded twice, his eyes moving across the stations as Andre spoke, already calculating, already building the sequence of corrections in the order they needed to happen. Then he moved. The kitchen reorganized around his presence, the way a compass reorganizes around a magnet, not because anyone was directed to, but because the correct center had returned and everything found its orientation naturally. The sauce was pulled from the heat and rebuilt in 6 minutes using the backup reduction Julius had prepared that morning, because he always prepared a backup reduction, because 20 years of service had taught him that the difference between a good chef and a great chef was the decisions made before anything went wrong. The protein timing was corrected. The garnish error was caught and reversed before a single incorrect plate moved toward the pass. Zoe took her corner, dark green book open, out of the way, watching her father work with the specific expression of a child witnessing something she will remember for the rest of her life, and already knows it. Diana Frost entered the kitchen at 6:41 p.m. She stopped when she saw Julius. Her hand moved to her earpiece. Julius did not look at her. He was plating the amuse-bouche for 400 people, and he had 12 minutes before service, and Diana Frost did not exist in his professional capacity right now. Andre stepped between them. Not aggressively, simply present. A young man who had found the standing he did not have an hour ago in the specific way that standing is sometimes found, by watching someone demonstrate what it looks like to hold it. "Service is on track," Andre said. "We'll be ready at 7. Diana looked at Julius. At the kitchen running correctly around him, at the folded apron still on the counter, unmoved, unremoved, the specific evidence of what she had done, sitting in plain sight where everyone who entered the kitchen could see it. She touched her earpiece. Left. Service began at 7 p.m. The food left the kitchen the way Julius had designed it to leave. In sequence, in timing, with the specific care of a man who understood that the last mile from kitchen to table was the final act of 6 months of preparation, and deserved to be completed with the same attention as everything that came before it. In the ballroom, the room responded. Not dramatically. The guests did not know who had made what they were eating or what had happened in the kitchen 90 minutes ago. But Constance Avery had been doing this for 11 years, and she knew the difference between a room that was eating and a room that was experiencing something. People slowed down between courses. Conversations paused when plates arrived. At her own table, she watched a city councilman set down his fork after the third course, and simply sit for a moment with the specific expression of someone who has just tasted something that reminded them of a feeling they had not felt in a long time. She excused herself at 8:15 p.m. and walked to the kitchen. She pushed through the service door, saw Julius at the pass, saw the folded apron on the counter, saw Zoe in the corner with her dark green book. She read the room in 10 seconds the way she read every room, completely, without performing the reading. Then she looked at Julius. "Tell me what happened." Julius told her, briefly, factually, the time, the words, the name. He did not editorialize or perform it. He reported it the way a professional reports facts, because the facts were sufficient, and he was a professional. Constance listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment, that she used to complete her understanding of what she had just been told. Then she looked at Zoe. "Is this your daughter?" "Yes, ma'am. Babysitter cancelled." Constance looked at Zoe. "What are you reading?" Zoe held up the dark green book with both hands. "It's about food from different countries. My dad gave it to me because I asked him what food was like everywhere else, and he said that question deserved a real answer." Constance looked at Julius. Something moved in her expression. Not sentiment. Something more precise. The specific recognition of a woman who has spent 61 years understanding what it costs a person to keep showing up to rooms that keep making it difficult to enter, and who keep showing up anyway. "Finish your service," she said. "I'll handle the rest." She walked back through the kitchen door. She found Diana Frost at the event coordinator's station near the ballroom entrance. The conversation that followed was brief. It was conducted at a volume that did not carry beyond the two of them. Diana touched her earpiece once and did not finish the gesture. Constance's expression did not change, and her voice did not rise, and when it was over, Diana Frost finished the evening, because the gala still had 2 hours, and Constance Avery was a professional who understood that consequence and completion were not mutually exclusive. But Diana Frost would not work another event for the Children's Hospital Foundation. Constance Avery's standards for who she worked with were as precise as Julius Webb's standards for what he put on a plate. And Diana had demonstrated tonight that she did not meet them. At 9:45 p.m., the final course went out. Julius stood at the pass and watched the last plates leave the kitchen with the specific stillness of a man who has just completed something that deserved to be completed. The kitchen around him was already moving into clean down. the organized efficiency of a team that had been through something large and difficult, and had come out the other side of it having done their jobs. Andre stood beside him. "We did it, Chef." "Yeah," Julius said. "We did." He looked at the folded apron on the counter, picked it up, held it for a moment. The weight of it, the specific weight of something that had been placed there as an ending and was now being picked up as a completion. He folded it again, more precisely this time. The fold of a man finishing something rather than leaving something. Put it in his kit bag. Constance Avery came back to the kitchen at 10 p.m. She found Julius supervising the final clean-down with the focused attention of a man who understood that how you leave a kitchen says as much about your standards as how you run it. She shook his hand, not as a gesture, as the specific acknowledgement of a woman who understood that what had happened tonight deserved to be named correctly, and was naming it. "The room felt what you made," she said. "That was the point," Julius said. "I know. It is why I called you." She paused. "I am sorry for what happened tonight. It happened under my event. That makes it my responsibility." "Thank you," Julius said. The correct and complete response to an apology correctly delivered. Constance looked at Zoe, asleep in the corner now, the dark green book closed in her lap, her head resting against the wall with the complete trust of a child who fell asleep somewhere her father was working and knew without needing to confirm it that she was safe. "She watched you come back," Constance said quietly. "She's the reason I came back," Julius said. Constance looked at him for a moment. "I would like Webb's table to cater next year's gala, if you're willing." Julius looked at his sleeping daughter, at Andre wiping down the final station, with the quiet satisfaction of a young chef who had been through something tonight, and was better for having been through it. At the kitchen, clean, completed, the evidence of 6 months of work finished correctly. "We're willing," he said. Late. The venue parking structure. Julius carried Zoe to the car. She was half asleep, the dark green book pressed against her chest, her head on her father's shoulder with the complete trust of a child who had fallen asleep in a kitchen and was being carried to a car by the safest person she knew. He buckled her in with the specific, careful gentleness of a father performing the 10,000th ordinary act of love. The buckle clicked, the strap adjusted, his hand briefly on her cheek to push a strand of hair back. He got in the driver's seat, looked at her in the rearview mirror, Angela's face, in his daughter's sleeping face, the grief of it, and the grace of it, inseparable, permanent. The thing he carried, that was both the heaviest and the most sustaining thing he had ever carried. He started the car. Zoe stirred. One eye opened. "Dad," she said. Her voice was thick with almost sleep, her question arriving from somewhere between dreaming and waking. "Did they like it?" Julius looked at her in the mirror. "Yeah, baby. They liked it." She closed her eye. A small smile, her mother's smile, arriving without effort. "I knew they would," she said. "Your food always makes people feel something." Julius sat with that for a moment. In the quiet of the parking structure with the engine running and his daughter almost asleep in the back seat, and the weight of the evening settling into something he recognized. Not peace exactly, not yet, but the specific quality of a hard night that ended correctly. The kind of night that becomes a story you tell later. The kind your daughter will tell when she is old enough to understand everything she watched. "Your mom used to say that," he said quietly. Zoe was already asleep. He looked at her for one more moment in the mirror. Then he drove them home. If Julius and Zoe's story stayed with you tonight, If you felt something in that parking structure, in that kitchen, in the moment a little girl told her father his food was still in there, share this video right now. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Someone who has been removed from a room they built and had to decide whether to walk back in. Subscribe if you have not already. We are here every single week with stories that stay with you. Hit the like button if this one delivered. And drop a comment below. Tell us where in the world you are watching from. Your country, your city. We read every single one, and we want to know exactly who is carrying these stories with us. Until next time, your work does not disappear when they make you leave the room. It waits for you to come back and finish it.